Most important thing in business is honesty, integrity, hard work, family, never forgetting where we came from.
Welcome to the Network Show. I'm your host, Lawrence Wingate.
And I'm Nancy White, your co-host, and we have an amazing gentleman with us today, David Frankel, the creator and owner of Perky Collar, LLC. So welcome, David. We're so glad that you agreed to come on the network show and to be able to share with others about your journey as being an entrepreneur.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about your journey as an entrepreneur. Was that something that you had in your family, or what inspired you, David, just to become an entrepreneur?
I think it stems from both. I think it's a desire to work for myself and be able to have quality time with the family. And I think it also has to do with my experience growing up as a child. My parents weren't entrepreneurs, but my grandparents were entrepreneurs. So both my grandparents on my mother's side and my father's side had their own businesses. And I saw their livelihood, I saw their work ethic, I saw their customer relationships. I used to be in my mother's side. My grandfather's store was in downtown Cincinnati. It was a camera store. And I used to go to the store as a kid all the time. And I don't know if that had an influence on me, but it was nice to know that was our store.
Okay.
And several professional athletes and people from the community just knew that as being the place to go for any camera needs. Now, obviously, camera needs have changed a lot in the last 50 years with digital. But back in the day, that was the place to go if you had any issues with cameras. And it was cool to know that my grandpa and my mom and my aunt all worked there. It was just a family business.
Wow.
And then on my dad's side of the family, it was commercial real estate. And I recently just got my commercial real estate license as of Monday.
Congratulations.
Finally, after
Yay.
6 months of training and studying and trying to get this 44-year-old brain to regurgitate and memorize things that hasn't really been tested for a while. So it's nice for me to now follow that side of the family as well. But so I saw my grandfather run 90 some salespeople and speak very highly of the commercial side versus the residential side, just better hours, bigger deals, bigger opportunities, and just the network and the connections he made along the way.
That is amazing. So you do have some history there.
Yeah, not my parents, but my grandparents.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time with both sides of the family, so I think they definitely had their influence.
So when did you decide, or when did you say, hey, entrepreneurship is for me?
I think it just comes from personal frustration with working for someone. I don't call myself unemployable, but at times I think of myself as unemployable.
Right.
So I think that contributes where you have a job and it's either you feel like you know more or you feel like you do things differently, but your voice isn't being heard.
Right.
And I think at some point you say enough is enough. Is now the time to take that leap and owning your own business. It's a lot of risk. It's scary. It's definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. And I had some other businesses before. I had a small soccer business. We had a photography studio in Cincinnati. And you fail, and that's part of the process.
Right.
But I always felt better knowing it was my photography studio. And once we moved to Charlotte, we decided not to have it again here, but also the industry changed. Everyone's got a camera on their phones now.
Right.
So if it wasn't that way, we probably have a studio here in Charlotte because we enjoy the photography world. But I think it's just a matter of when you work for someone else, you work long enough to learn how to do things and how not to do things. And at some point, I think your true happiness, your true chance to live in a way that you want to live, comfort in finances, comfort in lifestyle, being able to choose your own hours. Not that entrepreneurs don't work a lot, but at least you can pick and choose when you work. You don't have to have that request for time off and get denied and so on and so forth. I think it just got to the point where it felt right to me to work for myself.
So now that you're working for yourself with Perky Collar LLC, what is a Perky Collar? Two, what are your successes and what are your failures and how did you overcome those failures?
Okay, that's a triple.
Yes.
That triple question.
That's a triple monster. All right,
I was so fascinated when I first met David and saw his Perky Collar, because I've got some invention history too, but when I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, how did he come up with this? And it's just, so I would love to hear that answer too.
Now it's going to become a four-headed monster if I answer how I came up with the idea. So let me clarify a couple things. One, the company is called Perky LLC.
Okay.
the first product from Perky LLC was the Perky Collar.
Okay.
But it's a very common misconception because I'm known as the Perky Collar guy.
Yes.
So I've worked really hard the last couple of years to get beyond the Perky Collar guy because I feel like there's other inventions out there too
Right.
that solve other clothing related problems that need to be addressed as well. So let me answer one head of the monster at a time.
All right.
If I can recall all four now. So the first is, Perky Collar is a device that raises the top button region of a dress shirt so it doesn't droop and sag. So I had the idea back in April of 2017. I wear a lot of dress shirts and blazers. I got tired of wearing ties, especially here in the South. It's just so hot. And I was getting, this is how I thought of the idea, kind of tie into your fourth head. I was getting dressed one day for work and I was doing online marketing at the time, which is a great background, by the way,
Right.
to any business owner to understand the online space.
Right.
So I'm grateful to have that opportunity. But I was getting ready for work and I put on a dress shirt and I took it out of the dry cleaning bag and I looked in the mirror and one collar was up, one collar was down. And I'm like, I just did heavy starch. Why is the shirt acting like this? Maybe it's just a funky shirt. So I put that shirt back in the closet, got another dress shirt out, and same thing happened. I'm like, I can't go to this meeting looking like this. I don't have time to go buy a new shirt.
Right.
So at that point, I looked through the bathroom of our master bath and couldn't find anything to kind of stuff in the collar to make it look right. So I kind of ventured into my daughter's room at the time. She's 10 now. I guess she was 5 or in that time frame. And I found a basket full of headbands.
Okay.
And I don't know why I even stumbled on this basket or why I thought that was going to be a solution, but I started looking through it and some had flowers and butterflies and a bunch of stuff attached. And I found something that was super slim and simple. Ironically, I picked out a purple one, which now has become our company colors, purple, white, and black.
All right.
Also has to do with, like, kids go to Audrey Kell, which is purple, white, and black, and my wife loves purple.
Yes.
So I figure everybody gets a win. It also brings the origination story together. And I literally took that simple purple headband and put it under my shirt collar and ran down the hall and looked in the mirror and said, hey, you know what? It's not comfortable, but it's more comfortable than wearing a tie,
Yes.
and it looks better. So I went to the meeting, and as soon as the meeting was over, I was like, you know what? I might be onto something. I don't know if this is the right shape or size or material, but at least putting something under the collar has now resurrected my collar.
All right.
And I never was a big fan of starch because it just made my whole shirt uncomfortable.
Right.
We sleep in Egyptian cotton sheets and
Yes.
super comfortable, but yet we wear starch shirts all day long. I'm in my starch shirt 12 hours a day, my bed sheets 5 or 6 hours a day, but yet I'm uncomfortable all day long.
Yes.
And I don't care what my shirt being starched, I just want my collar. So there's no way of just starch the collar unless you manually starch the collar. Being a military background,
Right.
you're familiar with those days. I don't have
Yes.
that kind of time.
Yes.
Nor do I want to, honestly. So this is kind of artificially starching the collar. And then I reached out to a company here in Charlotte called Inventus because when I worked for Playmore Design Corp as a VP of sales and marketing for them, we shared space with them. They had a CNC router and they had all kinds of cool inventions there. And I was always fascinated by what they did. But I was primarily working on playground manufacturing,
Right.
recycled plastic material. So as soon as I had this idea, I called them and said, hey, Ryan, it's been a while since we talked, but I have this idea on how to get rid of the droopy, saggy collar. He's like, very intriguing.
Mhm.
We'll sign some non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, bring in some samples, and we'll talk. So I sat down with the whole Inventus team and brought in some packaging material from the shirts, went out and bought some more headbands, and just told them what the problem was, identified the solution, and said, I don't know what it's made of, but this is what it needs to do, and we got to figure out if there's a demand for it. If it truly solves a problem that's big enough for us to spend the money on, and then we got to figure out what the ideal product looks like, material, cost, length, height, all those different things.
Okay. Before we go on, we want to take a commercial break. And
Okay.
We want to hear the rest of this story. We'll be right back.
Yes, but I think we need to ask him something before we break.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, David, all these amazing things that you've gone through, what has been one of the biggest roadblocks for you being an entrepreneur that you've had to work through? Now we can stay tuned for our commercial and we'll be back and you will hear the answer to what David has overcome and that could help you too.
Welcome. This is the Perky LLC kiosk at South Park Mall. I'm David Frankel, the owner of Perky LLC, the clothing innovation company. The product I invented that started this whole business is called the Perky Collar. It lifts the collar up so it doesn't droop and sag. We also have other great innovative products such as the pockets for holders, which keeps it from unfolding and falling down. We have some great stainless steel collar stays, as well as Magnatuck, which keeps your shirt tucked in. Come check us out, South Park Mall. The kiosk is called Perky LLC, between Toomey and Francesca's, here in Shaw, North Carolina. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Akisa Bryan, your go-to realtor with Carrad Properties here in Charlotte, North Carolina. As a recent homeowner, I understand the anxiety and frustration that comes along with purchasing the home of your dreams, which is why, as your realtor, my priority is to make sure the process is as smooth as possible for you.
Welcome back to the Network Show, and today we have David Frankel, the owner of Perky LLC. And when we left, we asked David a question that I'm sure every one of you are so excited and anxious to hear the answer to. David, what was one of the biggest challenges that you've come across and that you have overcome in the creation and getting this invention to market?
Well, I think the first step is to get closer to the screen. Get closer. Listen very carefully. This is it. This is the problem that every entrepreneur runs into. And the problem is money. And it just comes down to, you think you have enough, or you do a crowdfunding, or you do family funds, and that takes you pretty far. But once the product comes to market, then you have to spend the money on marketing and advertising and more manufacturing, and it's a never-ending challenge. And no matter how much you have, you always wish you had more. The book by Damon John, The Power of Broke, is actually a great book because it does teach you that when you don't have a lot of money to work with, use a lot more creativity in your marketing and in your business plan. But if you're sitting on $500,000, $250,000, whatever it may be, and for a lot of listeners, they may think, oh, I've never had that much money, therefore I can never start a business. The key is just work smart. It may take you longer to bring to market, it may take you longer to start your business, but I think you can take step by step. The hardest part, truly, is that once you have a functional business that has some cash flow, and again, my definition of some cash flow is $1,000 a month. Someone else's definition of cash flow, if I'm walking into a major bank, is $12,000, $15,000, $25,000 a month. So there's a big difference there. I'm talking 10% of their ideal number. So they're looking at cash flow, consistent cash flow, in order to give you any money. So the number one problem is always going to be, what's your cash flow? Because based on what type of collateral you have as a business, unless you have something you use to make your product, like I have a mold, but my mold's in China, so that's not going to help me for collateral here in the United States. So what do you have as collateral, and what does your cash flow statement look like? So as your business starts, you have 3 months, 6 months, a year of cash flow. They're all about risk aversion. They don't want to risk their money on a business that may not make it. So it really has to come from your own personal savings, family that helps you, a lot of the crowdfunding, a lot of the Kickstarters. It all costs money too. Nothing's free to get free money.
Right.
So that's, I'd say, the biggest challenge. It is to this date. I mean, now that I've scaled, I'm in over 339 stores across the country. I have a kiosk in South Park Mall. Our cash flow is now $10,000 a month, plus online sales. But you still need more money because my vision is so much bigger. I want to get into bigger markets. I want to get vending machines in airports, but it all costs money. And having a family, that money comes out. The business money comes out, and it's like, how much money is left over? Well, I want to have a credit card with an unlimited limit, and I can say, hey, okay, I'm ready now to expand into this market. I need $25,000, $50,000, $100,000. And then once I make that investment, boom, it has return. I pay off the credit card, we move on to the next market.
That's marketing.
But to get that kind of funding, to get that kind of credit card is very challenging.
So, well, I think that's amazing. And you mentioned family because as an entrepreneur, especially having, a family, that you're always working your business, but you're always helping and taking care of the family. And so I think a lot of times people go, how can I do both? And you do it very well because you have 7 children.
6.
Oh, sorry. I didn't give you a new one.
Unless I have another one I don't know about.
Never mind. Excuse me. 6, correction.
If you're watching, I have a 7th child. Please call me.
I know. Sorry. But 6 children, and so taking care of all that.
4 children and 2 adults.
2 adults, because you've got one coming up to get married too.
That's true.
And so, anyway, so has the family been able to help support in your entrepreneurial journey also?
They have. I mean, I'm fortunate to have, like I said, grandparents that were entrepreneurs, and one of my parents are deceased, and that's what kind of gave me the funds to let this party get started.
Okay.
So I'm very blessed to have that fund to make it happen. I felt like there's several things you can do with money when you inherit it. You can just put it in the bank and invest it and keep your 9 to 5, which is what I'd say most of America does.
Yes.
You can go buy houses and yachts and restaurants and so on and so forth. But I wanted to invest in myself, and that's what I chose to use my money for. And look back, was that the right decision, or should I just put it in the bank and have so much money that has accrued? But then you're kind of vulnerable to the market. It goes up or down, and all that life savings, your inheritance can all be gone, or it could all double, triple. You never know.
Yes.
But the bottom line is, I think you have to figure out what's best for you, and is this the right time? Just like, is it the right time to have kids? Is it the right time to get married? As an entrepreneur, you never know when the right time is.
Right.
You just have to go for it at some point. You just have to do it and never look back.
Absolutely.
And you're going to have some huge challenges, primarily financial. You're going to have some employee challenges. You're going to have some manufacturing challenges, and you have to find a way to get through it. And that's the ultimate goal of an entrepreneur, is someone that just doesn't give up easily and just keeps pushing forward.
One of the questions I want to ask you is that, as I speak to a lot of my clients, is mention strategy. Strategy is a big part to any entrepreneur. As you said you want to expand, how much did you rely on your strategy to pick the places that you want to expand to, like you said, the airport and several other places?
Yeah, we developed a business plan a good 4 years ago, and the business plan had a very clear roadmap on what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. I think you still have to keep that business plan as a working document. The vending machine at the airports was just something I kind of came up with, being in Minneapolis and seeing a vending machine for makeup. I'm like, well, they can have for makeup, why can't they have it for men's accessories when they're traveling for work? It's a perfect market for me. I mean, the airport alone could be $1 million business without having to staff it or anything, just a vending machine that works on its own. I've struggled to find stores across the country that move a lot of product on a regular basis because it's such an inexpensive accessory. It's not a priority. They really sell suits. They really sell things that are a bigger market, bigger margin. So the plan is it's got to be one of those working documents that you say, hey, here's the roadmap, but be prepared to have extensions, to have remodeling, have modifications done over time, because you may have an idea 3 months later, 5 months later, a year later, 5 years later, that's still based the same on the business plan, but it's a new extension that you just didn't think of until later on the road. Okay. So you asked where I come up with cities. Honestly, I just do it based on, hey, I'm in the Charlotte market. That's provided a decent revenue. 100K per year is roughly where we've hit. I think we can maybe push it to another maybe 125, 150, but just based on the size of the population, that's probably about all we're going to be able to generate. Now the question is, can it be duplicatable? And if it's duplicatable, should we go with the same size city? Should we go after cities that are closest that I can drive to within a half hour, an hour, hour and a half? Or do we want to go to a bigger market? I'm hungry, so I think big.
Right.
I do a Google search, the 5 biggest cities in America, LA, Chicago, New York. That's what's on my chopping block, but that's a big undertaking. And you don't want to go there and fail.
Right.
But you're going to fail in some capacity. Just try not to fail big. You can fail small, learn from it, and move on. So I think it's just really trying to look at the size of Charlotte, kind of expect that kind of revenue in comparable city markets. Again, Cincinnati is very comparable to Charlotte, so it wouldn't be a bad thing to have a kiosk in the Cincinnati Mall. I'd say Kenwood Town Store, where I grew up. But I think the big markets like the LA, Chicago, I'm just curious. And I have people come from all over the country visit me at the South Park Mall and say, this would be great in New York. This would be great in Houston. This would be great in LA.
Or Atlanta.
Or Atlanta would be another great market. And actually, I just went to Lenox Mall in Atlanta and walked around the 3-story mall. And I said, well, you know what? If it's good enough for Apple, it should be good enough for me.
Right.
Now, how close can I get to Apple? Because now I'm very blessed that I'm on the main thoroughfare of South Park Mall, and they have to walk by me to get to Apple.
All right.
So similar to what Burger King does at McDonald's, I've kind of adopted that business model. If I can be on the way to for Apple customers to go to the Apple store, then that may be something great for Simon Properties all across the country. They have over 500 malls.
All right.
So I'm kind of now using, even though it wasn't part of my business plan, is to have a kiosk. It's now become, what have you learned in being there for 6 months?
Yeah.
It's not even about the revenue.
Right.
It's about what can you learn from the people that visit you at the mall.
Yeah.
And how can it change your location.
It is.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So, well, before we go, David, I would love for you to share a little bit more about how you've expanded and what you've expanded as far as other products.
Sure. Well, expansion, I think, just comes from getting out there.
Okay.
My first trade show was in Vegas, and there's, I can't even tell you, 10,000, 20,000 people that come visit. And while I was at that show, I just walked around to see what other products were out there. So I was always keeping an open mind because, again, it cost me, if I were to guess, $100,000 to bring this one simple product to market, and about 3 years of my life.
Yes.
And I realized that if I was going to bring more products to market, it was going to take me a long time and take more money that I didn't have, nor did I really want to spend it on more R&D. Now, if something it was so crucial and pivotal and no one had anything like it out there, maybe I spend the money. But if I can collaborate with other inventors across the country, what better place to find them than in Las Vegas, in New York, Chicago, Atlanta?
Okay.
So as I went to these trade shows with the Perky Collar, because I was a Perky Collar guy for quite a while, I found a pocket square holder gentleman. And the pocket square holder has been added to the arsenal, and all it is simply a tool that allows you to fold a pocket square in a creative way, not attached to cardboard.
Yes.
Which, gentlemen, if you have a pocket square attached to cardboard, you need to up your game. it's like totally 50s, 60s. We evolved as a society. We need to get beyond fabric sewn onto cardboard. And you simply open it up, locks in place, and then because of the height of it, it goes all the way down the pocket. So it just gives you a lot of creativity.
Yes.
He was actually just on Shark Tank. I guess it was April. Let's see, we're in June. This will air a little later. I guess it was early May of 2019. He was on Shark Tank.
Okay.
And he got a deal with Damon John for dollar perpetuity, which is kind of exciting because my product is on his website. So I'm hoping that relationship there.
Collaboration. Yeah.
So that's exciting. Another gentleman invented collar stays. They're stainless steel. They're called button-up collar stays. He just got a licensing deal with Work and Stiffs. So his product is no longer available through him anymore, but it's exciting for a fellow inventor to have a product licensed. And that's a goal for a lot of inventors because they have their full-time jobs.
Right.
Yes.
But he's got a great product. Stainless steel collar stay is the purpose of a collar stay, which a lot of people have that confusion. What does a collar stay do? A collar stay's simple function is to prevent a collar from curling. If you wear a button down, there are no collar stays.
Correct.
But those that aren't wearing button down collars deal with these little plastic collar stays, for lack of a better word, sticks through no collar, in your shirt, and they're very flimsy. And shirt manufacturers, no offense, shirt manufacturers that are watching, but they just don't do a great job putting quality, thick, strong collar stays in. And the reason being, you want to sell more shirts. I get it, I understand. But as a consumer that wants to look my best, it's almost not fair that my collar starts curling and I have to go buy a new shirt. So having stainless steel collar stays makes that collar look a lot cleaner and straight. And then in addition to the Perky Collar lifts the collar and the collar stays keep it from curling. So it's a great little combination.
It is.
And those that want their pocket square look good, want their collar look good, it just all works well together.
That is fantastic. We've been so grateful, David, for you just to come to share just a little bit. And I know everyone has learned a lot just from your interview. And so how can people get in touch with you, David?
Sure. The best way to get a hold of me is through the website, I would assume, which is perkyllc.com, spelled PERKYLLC.com. My phone number is 704-839-1169. And the email is info, @perkyllc.com. If you're local to Charlotte, come visit me at the South Park Mall. We're located between Francesca's and Toomey. Come in the main entrance of Maggiano's and Cheesecake Factory and take a look at all the beautiful fashion items we've added. My wife, we didn't really talk about a whole lot, but she's done a lot of fashion items for the kiosk. She makes handmade bow ties that look self-dyed. She makes these beautiful pocket squares. They're double-sided and serge different colors front and back. She makes these little bow tie lapel buttons. Along with all the inventions. So it's just a nice combination of local handmade crafts, along with some innovative things to solve clothing-related problems.
Wow. If you want to look classy and just have that look of professionalism from the time you wake up to the time you get home, then this is an amazing thing for you to really check out. And please do get in touch with David.
Yes. Well, that ends this interview for the Network Show. Thank you and see you next week.
Thanks for joining us.
The most important thing in business is honesty. Integrity, hard work. Family. Never forgetting where we came from. So you are what you are in this world. That's It's either one of two things. Either you're somebody or you're nobody. The most important thing in business is honesty. Family. Never forgetting where we came from. Either you're somebody or you're nobody.